Perfect. All right. So to get started, I'm going to pick up in an opportunity that I've already created just for time's sake. So to go to my opportunity, I click on the shaking hands on the left-hand side and go to the opportunities. And then hopefully command will load. There we go. It's going. And then from within command, I will start the transaction. So let me go to all opportunities. And then I just created this buyer opportunity this morning. So Tony Stark, buyer. I don't yet have a property, so I haven't filled in all this information. But to get started, I click on the Documents tab within the opportunity. And then on the right-hand side, in just a second when it loads, it will show a start a transaction button. I don't know why it's being so slow this morning. I apologize. It must be working on it. There we go. Oh, perfect. Okay. Over here in the right-hand corner, we have the Start a Transaction button. You must click Start a Transaction from within command in order to have your DocuSign room linked to your opportunity. And the benefit of that is that will prevent you from having to download documents out of DocuSign and then manually upload them into command. By starting a transaction and having them linked, you can attach files directly from DocuSign. It makes it a lot easier. So just make sure that you start the transaction, because if you start a room in DocuSign and then create an opportunity, you will never be able to link them. Also, if you have created a loop in .loop from within command, you will not be able to switch that over to DocuSign halfway through. So just want to keep that in mind as you start to transition your business from .loop to DocuSign. So I'm going to click on Start a Transaction, and this will open up DocuSign in a new window. All right, let me try again. Well, this is interesting. Well, goodness, the benefits of live training. Let me try to refresh it and see if it works. Okay. And let me click on Go to Transaction to see if it actually set one up. So to open up DocuSign, log in with the same login information that you use to create your account within command. You don't have to use a KW email address as long as you create your room as long as you create your DocuSign account from within command. So if this is your first time logging into DocuSign, before you do anything, I recommend you confirm your NRDS number. And the NRDS number is going to validate that you have the right to use the Georgia Association of Realtor documents. Those are copywritten documents, so they need to make sure that you've paid and you are a member of the National Association of Realtors first. There are two ways to do that. The first is when you first come into DocuSign, it will put you in the Documents tab. So you can see I'm in the Documents tab here. You can click on the add sign, add right here, add, and then click on DocuSign Forms. And you'll get this screen where it shows the Realtor logo as well as a Northwest Multiple Listing Service. Click on the National Association of Realtor logo. Here you can input your NRDS number. I imagine you don't know your NRDS number because I've only met one agent that does. So to find that, you can click on the Find Your NRDS ID, and this will open up a new tab where you can quickly search for that number. So I'm going to use my last name and my license number. Click Submit, and here's my NRDS ID, and then I'll come over here, copy that. I can close this window. Come back here, I'll paste in my NRDS ID, and then I need to select the association. So I need to select Georgia Association of Realtors from the dropdown. It's all the way towards the bottom. It's right here. So Georgia Association of Realtors, click Validate. I've now validated my association memberships. And if this is your first time confirming that, there will also be another screen right here that asks you to accept the terms and conditions of the forms with National Association of Realtors. So now I have access to the GAR forms. The second way to confirm your NRDS ID is up in the top right-hand corner. If you click on your image, or it'll be your initials if you haven't updated an image yet. Click on this, scroll down to Preferences, and then on the left-hand side, click on Integrations, and then you can scroll down just a little bit, and here's the NRDS ID information. And it's the same thing that if this was blank, you could click on, it has a Find Your NRDS ID right here. You can click on that, paste in your information, select Georgia Association of Realtors, and hit Save, and you'll be good to go. So make sure you do that before you try to write a contract or send over a buyer brokerage agreement or anything. Because if you don't confirm your NRDS ID, you won't be able to use the GAR forms. So I'm going to go back into the room that I just created by selecting rooms at the top. And then here I have my Tony Stark buyer room, and Tony Stark is the pretend contact that I made up in Command. So when I click on the room, it's going to automatically put me into the Details tab. And the Details tab is going to be one of the most important tabs that you use, because this is where you are going to fill in all of the information about your clients and about the property. If you are working with a buyer, you're not going to have any information about a property just yet, so it's fine, but you do need to fill in and confirm their contact information. So to do this, we'll click on Edit up here in the top right-hand corner, and then we'll just start at the top and work our way down. So here is the name of the room. You can rename this if you want to. It's going to be the same name as what you named your opportunity in Command. So you can change it accordingly. If you want to add the property address in here once you go under contract, that's fine. If you're working on a listing, you can start to fill in the property address information here. And if you are working on a listing, you can start to fill in your seller one contact information over here. 9 times out of 10, Command will pull in the information. Sorry, DocuSign will pull in the information from Command, but you always want to double check it. And if it doesn't, make sure you add that. All of the information added on the Details tab is what will be auto-populated in the GAR form documents that you create, as well as setting up signatures in the envelope later on. So I'm going to scroll through. I'm going to fill in as much information as I can this morning. I don't have a property yet. I'm just getting, just starting to work with my buyers. Scroll down. I don't have a seller. I'm not the listing agent, so I'm just going to continue to scroll down. I keep scrolling because I need to get to my buyer information. Perfect. Here's buyer one. It didn't pull in the information for my client, so I'm going to fill that in. So name Tony Stark, email. I'm going to add in the email address that I made for seller or for buyer one. I'm going to scroll down. For today's example, I'm not going to include a buyer two. And then I'm going to come down to buyer agent one, and I'm going to put myself in here. So you can fill in as much information as possible. Your email address is going to be the most important piece of information you add, because that's what is going to be used to send out signatures. So I got a couple questions, so let me check those real fast. Christine says, if you get the Realtor magazine, they print your NRDS ID number. And then Chris asks, where do you say to go to check your NRDS ID? When you click on the Add button in the Documents tab, and you select DocuSign Forms, if you haven't confirmed your NRDS ID, it'll ask you to do it there. If you don't know it, there's a link. It says Find Your NRDS ID. You can click on that, and it'll open up a new tab where you can search for your ID number. So perfect. So thank you for both those questions and that comment.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Real quick. Is there only 3 of us here, or is there a lot more of us and I only see 3 of us?
It's probably just the 3 of you.
Okay. This is going to sound silly. Do we start entering information in Command first, in DocuSign first? Where does it pull from so I know where to enter it first? Because I don't automatically enter everybody into Command. So where's the best place I know it doesn't auto-populate from FMLS, right? Is that correct?
That is correct. So great question. You first start adding people in Command. So before you can create an opportunity, you need to add your client as a contact. Then you'll create your opportunity. You will add your contact to that opportunity. Then when you go to start getting together paperwork, you click on start a transaction in the opportunity, and that will take you to DocuSign. Now, 9 times out of 10, it will pull over the information from Command. It didn't today because I just set up the opportunity just a minute before our class. So that way you'd go into DocuSign and you'd be more of a double check to make sure all that contact information is correct.
But the listing information, if it's in like KWLS, doesn't import in, that information doesn't import in.
That is correct.
Okay, that's the part I wanted to double check. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And then as Nanette says, you have to use Command to get paid and go through compliance. So it all starts in Command. Yeah, that's exactly right. You need to have all of that information for your clients, property, contracts, everything in Command. So I recommend you have to start there and then go to DocuSign.
So it's Command, DocuSign, Command.
Correct.
Whoa, okay.
Yep. All right, so I'm going to finish putting in my buyer information. I would recommend, or right here, I'll add in my company, so Keller Williams First Atlanta, and then you could fill in the property at, our address, 200 Glenridge Point Parkway, Suite 100. You could add all that information here just for time. I'm not going to. And then if you had another buyer agent, you could add his or her information here. So once you've double checked and made sure everything is good to go, you can click Save in the bottom right-hand corner. And now our room has been updated. So my information is in here as the buyer's agent, and my client, buyer number 1, is in here as well. So now I need to get together my documents for my buyer brokerage. So I'll come to the Documents tab. And let me plug in my computer really quickly. And then Documents tab is where you're going to add all of your GAR forms. So I want to call that out now because one of the most confusing parts about DocuSign is that you don't add your affiliated marketing or your wire fraud prevention documents in the Documents tab. You add those in the envelope because they are templates. So here we'll add our GAR form. So to do that, we'll click the plus add button here in the top right-hand corner, and I select DocuSign Forms. Now this window will pop up. Sometimes this takes a minute for DocuSign. I don't know why. If it does and the screen turns gray, just give it a minute. I promise it is loading and it will pop up. It's not frozen. So you leave the DocuSign Forms library, and then we'll select the library, and we will select the Georgia Association of Realtors. I don't know why the Greater Alabama MLS is in there. It is, just ignore it. We'll never use those documents. So now it'll show me every single GAR form that is uploaded into DocuSign, every single one. So we'll start to search for the forms that we want. I would recommend you start to memorize the numbers or make a list of the form numbers that you use most regularly to prevent confusion or mixing up the wrong documents, because there have been a handful of times where I've selected the wrong seller's property disclosure or the wrong purchase and sale agreement using the commercial one or the condominium one. So if you use the form number, you don't have to have that concern. So I want to use the buyer brokerage agreement. So I'll select buyer brokerage agreement, or type in buyer broker, and I'll select buyer brokerage agreement. I have a question. Is there a list of form numbers somewhere we can reference? I don't have a list of form numbers. I imagine there is one. I can find out if there is one that we can share. And then is there a way to save a document group? At the moment, there is not a way for individual agents to set up document groups. The MCA office is working on putting together like a listing group and a buyer group of documents, because it has to be done at the market center level. based on DocuSign's permissions. But before we create those groups, we just want to make sure that all the agents are trained on how to use DocuSign properly as to minimize any confusion or questions. And then how do you keep the documents in order when you send them into the room? So I will show you how to do that in just a moment. All right, so I have my buyer brokerage agreement, and then just for fun, I'll add the purchase and sale. Now you can see when I start typing in purchase and sale, there are a lot of documents that show up. So this is when I was saying it would be best if you know the form number, because then I can come over here and just type in F201, and that's the correct purchase and sale agreement. So I will just click add, and these will automatically add to your room. Now, if you want to create folders and you want to separate your buyer brokerage agreement or your listing agreement from your under contract documents, you can do that. I do want to clarify that in DocuSign, you can set this up however you want and however works best for you. In .loop, previously, we had to organize our documents in a certain way for compliance review. Lynn and Alita will never look at your DocuSign room. All of compliance takes place within Command, so your DocuSign, you can organize however you like. But if you want to have a room or you want to have a folder, I'll show you how to do that. So you can click Actions and then Add Folder. Folder name, I'll do Buyer Brokerage Docs, and then click Create. And then if you want to move these documents over, you can just click on it and drag it up. So now I've moved both those well, I guess I can cleave purchase and sale documents in the room docs because that's not a part of my buyer brokerage. Now, one thing I do want to call out, if you use folders, whenever you add a new document to your room, or whenever you received a signed document back from your clients, it will auto populate into the room docs folder. So this is the default folder here where everything will go into. From there, you'd have to move it accordingly. So, so you have a question. Gail asks, where are the affiliated and wire fraud disclosure fraud docs? Do you have to pull those in somewhere else? Yes, those are located in the envelope. So those are templates. You don't have to make any updates or changes to those two forms. So that's why they're in the envelopes as templates. And I will show you those in just a moment. So once you've added your documents, you can start to update those. To do that, just click on the document and it will open up. And it's really going to be as simple as just typing in text and going through the process. So you'll see here, it pulled in my client's name and Keller Williams First Atlanta because that's the information that I added in the details tab. Everything else I'll need to go through and add, so I can just add today's date of 6/4/2020. The term, you just go through here, you just type in the information that you want. Let's do 7/4/2020, and then select all of the fields. Commission. Had a question, so let me check on that. Do we need to manually enter all the property info since it doesn't automatically populate when you use the FMLS number? If you filled in the property information in the details tab, then it would auto-populate the document in the documents tab. But DocuSign does not auto-populate any of that information from FMLS like .loop did. So you do have to manually add it to the details tab. But since I didn't add any property information in the details tab, it's not going to add any information to this document. Granted, this is just a buyer brokerage agreement, but I'll show you on the purchase and sale. So you just go through here, fill in all the information, however you want. One thing I really like about DocuSign is that you cannot delete the text fields. I can't tell you how many times in .loop I would have to backspace and I would hit Shift Delete and accidentally delete the entire text field, then have to go through, add a new text field, and then reformat it, and it just became a pain in the butt. So you don't have to worry about that. And as you're filling in this information, you can just tab from field to field. So I'm just hitting tab here, so that way I can just move from one box to the next, which is really nice and can make things pretty simple and streamlined. So just scrolling down, you just select all of the document or all the brochures you want to send. You can type in any special stipulations that you want to use. Add more if you want. It really is as simple as typing in. Then we'll come down to the bottom. You'll see here, it auto-populates my client's name as well as their email address. And then it does auto-populate some of the information that I put in here, not everything. So like MLS office code, you're gonna have to add that in here every single time, as well as the brokerage firm license number. I've talked with Hutch at the region. He is working with DocuSign to see how we can get these fields mapped, since they are going to be on every single document.
Separate pre-dashes.
You real fast. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks, all these fields will be able to auto-populate. In the meantime, we'll have to manually fill them in. And then you can fill in the rest of the information as well. 369-844, perfect. So once you've filled in everything, click Save and Close, and you are good to go. Now I'm also going to quickly show you how to use the purchase and sale agreement. It's the same process. So you just click on it. I don't know why everything is being so slow today. And then you just start at the top and work your way down, start filling in the information. So you fill in today's date, 2020, property address. Now, had you gone in, let's say, Chris, it's your question. Let's say you went and you knew you were about to submit an offer for 1234 Main Street. You could go into the details tab, type in 1234 Main Street, all that information on the details tab. And then when you open the purchase and sale agreement, that property address information would be included here. If your room is linked to Command as a pull-in customer info, or do you still need to add it to details? 9 times out of 10, DocuSign will pull in your customer client information out of Command. That's why in the details tab, you want to go through and double check it and make sure. And if it wasn't added, you need to add it in. Is there not a calendar in DocuSign? No, it's not. There's not a calendar option like in .loop. So you just have to manually type in the date. So you just type in your property address, 1234 Main Street Southeast, Smyrna, Cobb, 3080, and then you put in your information here, our legal description, and then you type in your purchase price. So let's do 375, 123. Now I tried to put in, okay, so it allowed me to do the comma there. Sometimes it doesn't allow you to use a comma. And then closing costs, let's do 5,000. Closing date will be 7/1/2020. So you get the idea how simple it is. You really just type everything in. You can tab between information. So just 3 days. So fill in all this information. It's that simple. Then you can see here, selling broker, First Atlanta. So I select myself as client, and then you could fill in, let's say it's Harry Norman. Now what that will do, now up here at the top, I've added the property address. So when you add or change or delete information on a document, it will make that same change to the details tab. So I've added a property address here. So this property address is going to be added to my details tab. So when I have subsequent documents, this property address will auto-populate. Just like down here, I added Harry Norman as the listing broker. So now in any future documents that has a field where the listing broker name is included, it will automatically add Harry Norman. I also bring that up because as we scroll down to the bottom of the purchase and sale agreement, so I don't want to spend all of our time filling this in because you get the idea of how easy it is just to type everything in. But I want to call out that if you make any changes to the document, it will affect your information in the details tab, because when you get to the bottom of your purchase and sale agreement, it will auto-populate your client's contact information. I don't like sharing my client's contact information with co-op agents. I am sure that a majority of the agents out there are going to be great. They're not going to go around me and try to talk to my client without me, but there is a chance that there's going to be that one agent that will try to cut me out of the deal and say, hey, you know, if you don't use your buyer's agent, we'll decrease the sales price by X% or whatever. I don't want that to happen. However, I'm unable to delete my client's contact information from the purchase and sale agreement, because if I do, it will delete his email out of the details tab. And then when I go to send an envelope for signature, there won't be an email in there to send it to. So what I will show you is when I create the envelope is how to black out your client's information to protect it. I have talked to Hutch about this to see if there's a way that we can remove this mapping field. So that way we can delete an email address from a document and not delete it from the room entirely. So scroll down. Again, you'd have to come through here, finish filling out your information. And once you're good on everything, you can hit save and close. It looked like I had a question, so let me check on that. In command, go under go to transaction button. How do I switch to DocuSign in the middle of a contract that's been pulling from .loop? So if you have already started a transaction in .loop, you are unable to switch that to DocuSign halfway through that transaction. So what you'll have to do is go to DocuSign.com, log in, and create a room for your transaction so you can finish that transaction and any new documents that you need in DocuSign, and then you'll have to manually upload them into Command for compliance. After documents are signed by everyone, I download to my computer, then upload them to Command. Is there a way to put documents directly into Command once they are signed by everyone? Absolutely. That is the benefit of connecting your DocuSign to Command, so that way you don't have to download them, and I will show you how to add those documents at the end of this call. Let's see. I see a Pinterest button next to the button at each document at the upper left-hand corner of the document. That is very interesting. Would you take a screenshot of that and email me?
I don't see it on yours when I'm in it. It's on every one of my documents in the upper left-hand corner where that little circle is, like if I want to attach the documents.
Yeah.
And it's super annoying because I have to like flitter around it to get it to go away. I don't
have a Pinterest
logo, so like I would be attaching it to Pinterest.
Yeah, you may have like I can't think of what it's called, but
I have probably the icon, search bar installed, and so I don't know how that interacts with DocuSign, or if it's that I'm using the same browser. Yeah. Is there a preferred browser for DocuSign and Command? Because it's probably the same one that I use, and it's the preferred one that I use. So that's why, but is there a way for me to turn that off in DocuSign?
So Google Chrome is the preferred browser for Command.
Okay.
You can use any browser for DocuSign, but I just recommend, more than likely you just end up using Chrome because that's what you're using for Command.
Yeah.
You probably need to go into your Chrome settings to adjust the permissions that Pinterest has in attaching to different things. Because it sounds to me like you've added an extension to your browser that allows you to just quickly tag different things you see on the internet to your Pinterest board.
So how do I?
That I don't know. I would go to your settings. You and I can talk about it after.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
All right. So we've created our documents. We're good to go. Now we need to send them for signature. The way we send things for signature is by creating an envelope. And to do that, we go to the envelopes tab. There is actually two ways you can create an envelope. The first way is you can roll over your document and then this circle will appear and you can check it. And when you check a document, a toolbar will appear at the top. So if I want to create an envelope with both of these documents, I check both, and then I'd come here to this icon that says DocuSign. I would click DocuSign, and that would send me directly to an envelope. But I want to show you how to manually do it. So I will click on envelopes here. I'll click on new. And then we'll just start at the top and work our way to the bottom and fill in all the information. So envelope name. So I recommend you name your envelope something that you can keep track of, because you will be sending multiple envelopes throughout the transaction. This is a naming convention for you. Your client's not going to see it, but just name it something you can keep track of. The next, we want to add our room document, our documents to the envelope. So we want to add our buyer brokerage and our purchase and sale that we added to our room. So I'll click on room docs here, and this will show every document that's in my room that's available for signature. So I will select the buyer brokerage and the purchase and sale. I do want to point out here, you can see the logo of the document and it says form. Keep that in mind, because as you start to get more documents in your room, it'll show as PDF or signed. So by looking for the blue form, that'll help you as you try to sift through all the documents that you may need to select for signature in the future. So I'm going to hit add selected. And then, as I told you earlier, in the envelope is where we add our affiliated marketing and wire fraud prevention disclosures. And those are templates that the MCA office has put together for all of the agents in our office. And to get those, we would click on use a template, and then we'll click on shared with me, because these templates are shared with me from the MCA office. And it's going to load all of the templates that First Atlanta has created to share with us. So you'll see here I have my affiliated marketing and wire fraud, but it says buyer in front of it. If I scroll down, there's a seller version of that as well. So when you are adding these to your envelope, you need to make sure that you are adding the correct version of these disclosures based on which side of the transaction you are representing, because the signature fields are mapped accordingly. So since this is a buyer side transaction and I've only filled in my buyer client information on the details tab, if I were to add the seller version and I go to send that out for signature, there wouldn't be anywhere for my client to sign because it wouldn't be mapped to my client. So make sure, just double check that, take your time to add the correct version of those disclosures. So once you've added the disclosures, click add selected. And we'll now add those to the envelope. So you can see all the documents were added in the order that I added them, but you probably want to reorganize the order of signing. So for this, I would want my buyer brokerage agreement to be signed first, and then I want the affiliated marketing and then wire fraud prevention, and then my purchase and sale agreement last. To reorganize them, click on the document, hold your mouse down, and then drag it to the position that you want. So I just moved affiliated marketing. So now I want to grab the wire fraud prevention. So now they're in the order that I want my client to sign. So they'll first sign their brokerage agreement, affiliated marketing, wire fraud, and then purchase and sale. If you don't reorder the documents here, you won't be able to reorder them in the next stage, where we go to double check signatures before sending. So you have to do it here. So once we've added all of our documents and put them in the correct order, we need to add recipients to the envelope. So to do that, click the Add Recipient button here, and then select Pre-Tagged Roles. You must select pre-tagged roles for GAR forms, because if you don't, there won't be a place mapped for your client. So here you'll see up here, we'll select buyer 1. This middle column here that shows documents are going to be all the documents that are in my envelope that have a place for buyer 1 to sign. So I'll come over here and I'll from the scroll down and select Tony Stark as my buyer 1. And then I'll come over here to buyer agent and I will select myself. You will be in here twice, once as an agent owner of the room and then once as the buyer's agent or listing agent that you added yourself to on the details tab. It doesn't matter which one you select, pick whichever one you want. Do not add the broker to your envelope. You do not want to select the buyer broker and you do not want to select the listing broker. No one at First Atlanta needs to sign these documents at this time. If you select the buying broker or listing broker, it will prevent your document signatures from being completed and you will never have a signed document. So only add yourself and your clients. So once you've done that, hit Add Selected and it will add your 2 signers here. To the left of these boxes, you can see there's another box that says 1 in both of them. Those are the fields where you can update the signing order. When all the signers have a 1 in them, that means everyone will receive the documents at the same time to sign. But if you want them to sign in a specific order, let's say buyer 1 is like, hey, send the documents to me first because I want to review them all, and then we can send them to buyer 2 to quickly sign, and then we'll be good to go. You can update that here. So for this example, I'll send it to, you know what? I want to send it to myself first. So I'll send it to myself first to sign, and then I'll send it to my buyer. So I will just select this number, type in 2, hit enter, and it will now reorder the signers of this envelope. So I had some questions, so let me check those. Will we ever have logo GAR forms or generic GAR forms? That I'm unsure of. I imagine it's probably just going to be generic GAR forms since DocuSign added these documents for the entire state for all market centers. Once they sign the disclosures, then they go into the room and can be moved into a folder. That is correct. Does reordering only work in the envelope and not in the room? So what we're reordering in the envelope is the signing order. So based on just, of the documents, I'd want them to sign the buyer brokerage agreement before the purchase and sale. So that's why I reordered them here. When you go back, once they are signed and you're back in the room, you can then reorganize them however you want and create separate folders. And I can show you how to do that. Additionally, within each one of your recipient fields, you have this drop-down menu here. It's going to default to needs to sign, but if you ever needed to send something for someone just to view it, you can select that their permission is only to view the documents, or if they needed to receive a copy of them, you can select that here, or specify recipient, you can do that. And also we have the more drop-down. You can add an access code. So let's say your client wants just an extra level of security, you can set up an access code that they would need when they click on DocuSign before they can start signing the document. So you can just create that. So I just put 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I would give this code to my client. I don't want to actually use it, so I'll click discard. And then if you want to send a private message, so let's say I want to add a private message to my client, this will be a message that only goes to Tony. Please double check paragraph 11B, or whatever, or you can just put whatever you want in there, and that will go to only that client. Scrolling down, we have our message to our recipients. So I would update this. I would leave it as please DocuSign so they know that it's a DocuSign email. and then just do buyer brokerage agreement and purchase and sale. So in that way they know what this is for. And then just a quick message, please review and sign. Thank you. So before we click next, let's double check, make sure we've added all of the correct documents. They're in the correct order. We've added our recipients, put that in the right order, and we've added a message. So now we are good to go. I'm going to click next, and this is going to take me to the screen where the signatures and signing fields will be added. So you can see here on the right-hand side, we have some thumbnails of our documents. Over here on the right-hand side, you can see we have a bunch of fields. So these are going to be fields that we can add for signatures or add more information. You notice they're all yellow up here on the left-hand side, and I come up here to this drop-down menu. It shows my name, and it has a yellow icon to the left of it. If I click on the drop-down, it'll show Tony Stark, my buyer one, and have a blue icon. And if I click on him, all of these fields over here turn to blue. And this is to help keep track of who has to sign where and what fields are assigned to which person. So as you go through, so I just scroll through here. First thing I want to point out is at the bottom of the first page of all the GAR forms, there's this field that says this form is copyrighted and may only be used in a real estate transaction in which blank is involved as a real estate licensee. For the time being, you need to add yourself, add your name here. To do that, you can simply click on the name field and then just put that right there. And now that will auto-populate my name when I go to sign. So I'll just continue to scroll down. If you are missing any information or you need to add a checkbox or anything, you can do that here in this part of DocuSign. But I do want to point out that DocuSign is meant to be an e-signature platform and not a document editor like .loop. So just keep that in mind that it's going to be much more limited. So double check the signatures. I don't know why these are off. Good to go there. Just update my signature here. Good to go. Now with the buyer brokerage agreement, what I could do is I could set this to auto bind by adding a date signed of my client. So if I click date signed and add that right here, that when he goes to sign this, it'll automatically add that date there and make this a binding document. I have a couple questions. Does your name appear at the bottom of the page? Does your name at the bottom of the page not count as that field? So at the moment, DocuSign just hasn't mapped that field. Hutch is working with them to get that mapped correctly, but it's every single GAR form. So for the time being, add it on there. If you forget, you should be fine, but just to prevent any feedback from Lynn and Alita, I'd recommend that you just add it on there. So scrolling down, now we get to our affiliated marketing. You can see here, it's already mapped for buyer one. There was nothing that I needed to update, which is why it's a template, because there's nothing for me to touch or make changes to. Here we have buyer one, sign that. Wire fraud. Now we're going to get to the purchase and sale agreement. So here, again, I really quickly want to add my name to the bottom here. And then just scrolling to the bottom, because I want to show you how to hide your client's email address. Perfect. So just double check the signing boxes. I don't know why these got moved. They were fine the other day. So you see here, we have this black box, or sorry, we have my client's email. I want to add a black box over that. To do that, I can come over here to markup tools, and then I can select line, and then I can add a line directly over that email address. And then whenever you select one of these fields, a menu pops up on the right-hand side. So I can change the color of it. I want to make it black, and then update the thickness of it. So I can click on, make it thicker, and just kind of move it down. And now it blocks out my client's email address. It's not the most beautiful thing, but it will protect your client's contact information. You only need to do this on documents that will be sent to a co-op agent. Everything else should be fine. And just come down here to the bottom. Always double check to make sure that your signature field is added. Sometimes, like right now, it doesn't. So I just want to select to add my signature here, and then also add date signed. Perfect. So I had a question, so let me check this. Can you override any fields here if needed? No. So in .loop, you used to be able to, you could put a text box over any piece of text and it would override it. In DocuSign, you can't do that. If you add text over other text, the background text will show through, so it doesn't block it out. And then it seems like there's a bunch of signature fields in bizarre places. Will they go back to normal? Yes, we are letting DocuSign know when we see weird things like the fields moving. So I escalate that up to Hutch, and then he sends it to DocuSign. So now we have added all of our signature fields. Let's send for signature. So I'm going to click send. And now it's going to send it to me first, since I set myself as the first signer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click needs my signature, click on the envelope here, and then up here, I click on the sign button, and it will take me into the signing capabilities of DocuSign. So I click continue, start, sign, sign, and then I'm finished. Perfect. So now that I've signed, my buyer will receive an email to sign. So I'm going to show you that process real quickly. Let me come over here and switch accounts. Perfect. So it says, please DocuSign buyer brokerage agreement and PSA. So I click on this. And then here's that private message that I sent. Please double check paragraph 11B. So I click review documents. And now this is me signing as my client. So I agree to the terms. Click continue, start, sign. If it's the first time, it will ask them to confirm their signature. Sign, sign, initial, and sign. And now I'm finished. Make sure your clients click the finish button. If they don't click finish, DocuSign will not register that document as having been completed. So I click finish. It'll ask them to create an account. They don't have to do that. Tell them they can hit no thanks. Perfect. We are good to go. And it says you'll receive a copy once everyone has signed. So since my buyer was the last one to sign, I'll come back into my email really quickly. And now you can see I've received an email completed. Please DocuSign buyer brokerage agreement. And I can click here, and your client can download these forms, these signed forms, directly from this email rather than me having to send another email. Perfect. So I'm going to come back into DocuSign. And now I refresh, you can see the envelope has been completed. I'm going to come into my Documents tab. And like I said, everything will default to the room docs. So I can see here, here's my signed affiliated marketing, buyer brokerage, purchase and sale, and wire fraud. So I want to move all the documents from my buyer brokerage up. So I'm going to move this up here. I'm going to move my signed buyer brokerage agreement. I signed. That one didn't move. All right. Perfect. And then this document here is a certification that just shows the time that everyone signed, just to make sure everyone's on the same page. So now I've organized them into folders. There was a question of can we reorder them here? Beyond putting them in folders, it does become a little bit more tricky to put them in a specific order. If you want to do that, you'd probably have to rename it. So what you may want to do is if you click on the document, so let's do our buyer brokerage agreement, because we probably want this to be first. Click on document actions up here in the top right-hand corner, and I can click rename. And then I can just put a 1 there. If I hit save, now this is going to reorder that to be 1. And then I can do affiliated marketing disclosure, rename this and put a 2 at the front. And then I can click on this, wire fraud, rename 3. So that's going to be your best workaround to get them in a certain order, because DocuSign defaults to being alphabetical. So now I have them in the order that I wanted. Now for the fun part, let's upload these into Command. So I have all my signed documents here in DocuSign. Oops, excuse me, why is that moving? Let's go back into Command. Then I'm going to come to my under contract folder because this is a buyer. And I'm going to scroll down here to my buyer brokerage agreement. I'm going to click add a file. For the source of documents, I'm going to click on DocuSign. And then that is going to show me all the folders that I have. What? Let me hit refresh real fast. Now let me try that. Let's see if this works. Click on add a file, select DocuSign. Okay, well here is where you would attach your documents from DocuSign. I think that when I originally tried to create the room, there was that issue with DocuSign not opening, so it doesn't look like they connected. But this is how you would add your documents. So when you select add a file, and then you have select the source as DocuSign, all of your documents would load right here as, and then you can just select it and click assign, and it would assign it. I'm sorry, that's not working. If you want to add multiple documents at the same time, you can come up here and click attach multiple files, select DocuSign, and then here would be a drop-down menu that shows all of the documents in the room, and you would go through and you would select the correct version of each one, and you'd want to select the signed version. And then real quickly back in DocuSign, and let's say you wanted to send this to your client, or you wanted to send multiple files to a co-op agent, but you just want to send one PDF, you can easily attach or combine documents by rolling your mouse over and selecting it, and select all the documents that you want. And then when you do that, the toolbar up here appears, and you can click on the Combine button, click Combine, and then you can rename Tony Stark Buyer Brokerage Agreement Docs. And then if you want to reorder them, you can just click on the icon and move it, and you can put it in whichever order you want. Now, if you had reordered the names like I had with number 1, it'll leave them in that alphabetical order, and then you can just click save, and then it will refresh, and you can see here, down here, it'll add it to the room docs, Tony Stark Buyer Brokerage Agreement Docs, and I just move that up here to my buyer brokerage document. Let's say you have a purchase and sale agreement that you need to make binding. I'm going to show you a quick workaround on how to do that. So you will need to create a new envelope. I come over here, create new, rename it. This will be really quick. PSA binding, add room docs. And then here it's going to show all of the documents that we have. What I'm going to do is I want to select the purchase and sale agreement signed. So this means that this document has been signed by all the parties that it's been sent to. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's binding yet. So I'll click add selected. I'll click add a recipient. And then you'll notice here I don't have the option for pre-tagged roles because I'm adding a PDF and there isn't any pre-mapped fields here. So I click room participants. and then I will select myself and then hit add selected. And then I don't need to put a message to myself, and I'm going to click next. And this will take me to the field where I can double check all the signatures. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come all the way down to the bottom of the purchase and sale agreement. And this obviously is pretending that the seller and the listing agent all signed it. So I can come over here and I can add a date. So I'll add the date signed right here. And then I can add my name right here. And DocuSign will automatically fill in this information. So let me hit send really fast. So I can click sign now, I guess. So I'll just click here, and the envelope needs my signature. Click sign. Click continue. And since I'm not technically even having to sign anything, it'll just auto-populate that information, and I will click finish. That's been completed. I'll come back into my Documents tab, scroll down, and you'll see I now have a purchase and sale agreement signed. So I can open this, and this will be my bound version of my purchase and sale agreement. And there's that information right there. So I had a couple questions, so let me get to these. So I guess the purchase and sale co-op fields have to manually enter because they do not pull from MLS. That is correct. Also make sure the buyer doesn't have incorrect fields as well. What if we need to change the price of the initial purchase and sale agreement and resend to all parties? What you would want to do, Nanette, is update. Let's say you want to update your purchase and sale agreement. You would come over here to the purchase and sale agreement, the form version, click open, and then you would just update this purchase and sale document. That's a great question because what this shows is it points out, let's say we want to update this to be 360, 1, 2, 3. And you just click save and close. And then you'd create a new envelope and resend for signature. In DocuSign, you can only add a document template or document form to a room one time. So in .loop, you could add as many purchase and sale agreements as you wanted, or you could add as many amendment forms as you wanted. The way DocuSign works is that you would just update this form, and then it will save all your versions of the signed document with that information in it. So if you had amendment 1 and you got that signed, and then you need to send amendment 2, you would go back and update the document here, and then resend for signature and resave, then rename it as amendment 2. I think I had some more questions. Is that what we would also do to change something that's binding and send out to all the parties to initial instead of doing an amendment? Yes. So what I just showed you in making that document binding is the workaround to prevent having to send out to everybody to initial, add a date. It's not the proper legal way. I'm not Lynn, Alita, I'm not a lawyer, but that is what I would do as an agent to make things simple and send out the least amount of documents for my clients to sign. So it's 11:02, and I want to be respectful of your time. So what questions do you have for me now that I can answer for you? You can unmute yourself if you want, or you can type it in the chat box.
Hey, Nick, show them within the envelope where it says the difference between a field being like need signature or comment only or something, because I have accidentally sent something out where I added a date. I know you said it's not we shouldn't edit anything there, but in the event that I added a date because I saw that it wasn't there, it got sent to my client and they're like, what do I do with this date? So there's fields in there that need attention, and then there's fields that's just a comment.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna,
Just because I'm sure if I stepped in that lane, somebody else is going to, and it was very frustrating. In response to that, show them how to review it so they can go and see exactly which fields their buyer or seller needs to sign in case something was incorrectly lined up.
so what Nanette was saying is that, as I mentioned earlier, you have your drop down here so you can see who's responsible for what signature fields, but you can also add text fields and checkboxes and whatnot in here. So I'm currently under my buyer, everything's yellow. Let's say I added a text field here. Right now, this text field is empty. So when I sent this to my client, he would have to fill this in. And over here, it's automatically checks as required field. So it would make my buyer fill in some information in this text field before it would let him go on to the next place to sign. Now, if I wanted to add some information in here on behalf of my client and say, you know, whatever you want, you could type that in and just set it as uncheck the required field and it'll be there. Or you can click read only and then he won't have access. He won't be able to type in or change any of the text when he goes for signature. And then Nanette, would you repeat the part about
go to the recipient preview to then show them what, and so you can also see what Tony's going to sign or what you have to sign, just to make sure that you've got everything lined up.
Yeah.
And that way it'll make sure you don't have any of those text fields or whatever that they're doing. So it just kind of goes through and shows you what they've got to do.
So what you can do up here in the top right-hand corner that's viewing as, you can select your client or yourself to see what that person will be responsible for signing and what they'll see when they get the document. So I selected Tony and I can just kind of go through the process here. I'd click start and this is what the process would be like for Tony. And then it would click finish and you'd be good to go. And that would be it. Or I can click on myself and see what the process would be like of what I would be responsible for signing.
But yeah, so is there really a finish button? Because I sometimes don't know how to get back to where I was before.
So when you're in
Easily.
when you're in the recipient preview, the finish button isn't real there because it's not real. There's an X up here in the top right-hand corner. Just click on that, and then I'll take you back into this stage where you can make the adjustments and the signatures.
Okay, so the only thing you can do from right here is send it, right? You can't save it and come back to this, right?
Well, so let's say I'm like, oh, I'm not ready to send this just yet, I can click this back here, and this will save all the changes that I made to the envelope and the signatures, and then I can click save and close here.
Okay.
And now I have a draft.
Okay, great. Because sometimes you're not quite ready. You need to get on the phone and talk to them, but you've got everything. Okay, thanks.
But if you save a draft and then you go back and you edit the document, it's going to remove all the signature fields and changes that you made.
If you go back to the documents and do it. Okay.
Let's say you have your purchase and sale, you create a draft, you add a bunch of extra text and whatnot in the signature side of the envelope, and then you talk to your client, hey, I'm about to send this over, and you're like, no, I don't want to send an offer at that price. Let's reduce the price, our offer price by $5,000.
That makes sense, yeah.
Then it's going to wash out all those signature fields and added text that you added in the envelope previously, because it's going to now recognize that document as a new document.
Gotcha. And so one other thing that I've fallen into with this too is that if you find out that the email address is incorrect for some reason or it's missing, then you really should go back to details and upload it before you go back into the envelope, right? Because I've had that happen where just the email was missing, and it might be because, like you said, I removed it from the buyer brokerage or whatever.
Yep. Yeah, always go back to the details tab and add the information in there, so that way the information is available throughout the entire DocuSign process.
Hey, Nick, I have a question. It kind of goes back a little bit to what we were talking about, but I think there was a little confusion. So let's say, like, maybe it's on, like, the community association disclosure and somebody needs to change the, like, dollar amount, but it's already been signed by everybody. The way that you added that binding signature, is that the same thing that you would do if you needed to, like, cross through the amount and put a new amount and have everybody initial it?
That's correct.
Okay.
So you would create a new envelope, add the signed version of whatever document you need. Then I would use the markup fields with the line to cross through the original sales price, add a text box to the side or near it with the new sales price, and then add your initials nearby, and then send for signature.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Would you just show us a quick example of that? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for that question.
So, I'll just create a new envelope. I'll add a room doc, and I will select, excuse me, the purchase and sale agreement signed to sign. So this is our binding document here. I'll add selected, and then I'll come here, I'll add recipients, and I'm gonna select room participants because there aren't any mapped fields here. So I'll select myself as a buyer's agent and Tony Stark. Click add selected. Then I'll click next because I'm just trying to breeze through here. We'll let this load. And let's say we don't want to do 375 anymore. And you come here to the markup tools, select line, come over here, draw a line directly through that sales price. You could change the color if you wanted to change it to black. It's fine. Come back over here to standard fields, select text field, add a text field here. You can just kind of resize it and then type in, let's say we want to do 365. And then I want to make this read only because I don't want it to change. I don't need to have access to it. I want to make sure it shows up on everyone's document. I add that here. And then I would, I guess, come over here to Tony Stark, select initial, and I can put his initial here. I can make this smaller so it fits. And then I would click send. And that's how you would say, that's how you would update a document and add their initials. And then I come here, I click on the recipient preview.
What happens if you are a recipient and you have nothing to sign? Like in this case, you updated it and you're sending it to your buyer and yourself. Nothing will happen, right?
So, because I added myself and I didn't add a signature field for myself.
Yeah. Is that gonna be a problem?
Yeah. Well, technically it shouldn't because I added this text field here under myself. But yeah, I may just want to add, something. I could add a little initial or something because since I did add myself, if you add yourself to something or if you add yourself as a recipient and then you don't have a signature field, it will stop the document from being completed.
Right. It won't let it fully complete. Right. I think I've had that happen to me before too, because I wanted to get it back and be the last person, but there was nothing for me to sign. So you could have just gone back on that other page where you put yourself and just put review, change the.
Yep. So I could just hit this back button here. Recipients needs to sign to just needs to view. Then click next.
And I just bring these out because these are a couple little things that's happened to me.
No, this is great, Nanette. This is exactly what this is for. So thank you. This is very helpful. And I appreciate everyone being so patient on time today since we're going over. So DocuSign is being slow. I don't know why it's not loading. We have a lot of people in the office today, so maybe they're all on the internet. All right, perfect. So now here it got rid of my initial here because I no longer have a place to sign. So, but then I need to re-add the text field because I had added that text field under my name. So I'll add the 365123. Size this. Okay, well, it's not resizing now. And then I'll make this read only. Boom. So now when I send this, I would receive a link to it, but I'd only be able to look at it, and Tony would be able to initial the change in sales price. Any other questions?
A lot of ahas today. Thank you.
You are welcome. And then I'm also doing office hours this afternoon from 1 to 3. So I'll just be on Zoom. So you can log on at any time and log off, ask any questions, troubleshoot anything, walk through anything with you for those 2 full hours. So come bring all your questions, all your frustrations, and we'll work through it.
I do have one.
Nick, I have one.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I have one quick question, kind of not really about DocuSign. If we have API Nation linked up to .loop, is there like a way, is there some sort of indication to know that the sync is complete?
That I don't know. I'm not very familiar with API Nation. Michael New is the one
Okay.
that had the charge on that. But I don't think it took that long. I think it's like less than an hour is what it should take for them to download.
Okay. Mine was doing it all night because I have mine and Samantha's, but I'll ask Michael.
Yeah, double check with him and double check with API Nation to see if there's some kind of indicator.
One last question. Again, it's kind of separate. It's more .loop. But I heard in the business meeting yesterday, I'm getting ready to sneeze. In the business meeting that, I'm so sorry. That a lot of people are, downloading or going out and pulling everything from .loop over. And I'm trying to go back and look at, past years. I mean, if everything is also in a folder on my PC, and, well, am I missing something by not trying to download everything that's in .loop?
No. So if you saved all of the documents for your contracts for the last couple of years on your desktop already, then you're good to go.
Okay.
It really is for anyone that has used .loop as the means to house all of their documents. And the benefit of downloading them is if, let's say they have a past client that has a question or there's a complaint or they need to reference it, they have it. The office has downloaded all of them. So if you're missing something, you can email us at the office and we should be able to find it for you. But if you've already downloaded everything, I would say you're good to go. You don't need to download, use API Nation to download your loops.
Okay. All right. So for everybody here, do y'all also then take a copy and make it in a folder? So, because a lot of agents just want to get the PDF, right? So you're going to take these documents and send it to the other agent in a PDF anyway. Is that what everybody does?
Are you saying from
Yeah. So after you're done with all this, while it is stored here, I don't necessarily use this means to send it to the agent.
Yeah.
I usually put it on a folder because they usually want it as a PDF so that they can then go manipulate it for their, seller. Is that what everybody does? Or is there something easier?
That's usually what I do because when I'm sending documents, I like to combine them like I did here.
Yeah.
And then send one giant folder or one giant document to them. But what you could do, so you can, select here and then you have a toolbar so you can click download and that's how you would download it. Or if you wanted to email it, you could click email.
Awesome.
Type in the co-op agent's email here, write a quick note, and they would get an email saying, hey, there are documents for you to download from this room in DocuSign.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you.
You are very welcome.
So when I did that, it came up and said Dropbox or Google Docs, like that. There was a pop-up. that came up. I guess it was asking if I automatically wanted to save everything that I downloaded into Dropbox or Google.
Yeah, that's probably based on your browser settings that you set Dropbox or your Google Drive up as your main download hub. You just need to update your settings to have your downloads folder on your computer be your default download location.
Right, because everything I had in .loop I saved to a Dropbox folder all the time, and that's where I sent it to agents. So I think it automatically is doing that anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe. Possibly the Pinterest thing. I'll look into that though a little more. But thank you for that. Thanks for that. So thank you.
You are very welcome.
Thank you. This was awesome.
Yeah, so let me know what questions you have. Join me this afternoon, 1 to 3. I'll just be sitting here on Zoom. And then I am also teaching, I'm going to do another DocuSign class from like the more in-depth one where I go a little bit slower from 10 to 11:30 tomorrow. So if you want another refresher on anything, you can join that as well. So thank you all. I'm going to stop recording and let me know what questions you have as you're playing around in DocuSign.